Charlie, tell us what you saw. Good morning.
Morning. Yeah, well, I mean, I live about 5 minutes down the road from Magdala Road, which is, of course, where we now know one of the bodies was found. I live in Sherwood, which is a very small, tight-knit community, very quiet. About 5:20 this morning, I was awakened by the sound of just an absolute cacophony of sirens. And it lasted for what I would say must be about half an hour. It was just siren after siren, vehicle after vehicle heading down Mansfield Road, which is the main road that connects where I live in Sherwood down to Magdala Road. It's about a 5-minute walk from here. And at that point, I had no idea what was going on, of course, but in that sort of situation, you assume people are heading into the city centre. But the emergency response, of course, was only just down the road from here. And it's such a quiet and peaceful area. It's come as a huge shock to everyone that lives here, all the residents, of course, that live nearby. And yeah, I mean, everyone is shocked and devastated by the news, of course.
So what did you spring out of bed and look out the window? What did you do, Charlie?
Yeah, exactly that. So the first couple of sirens I heard, I thought, okay, that's normal. You kind of expect that. Maybe not on a Monday night. Nottingham is a vibrant student city, but it's more at the weekends you tend to get the emergency vehicles going into town. But it became apparent after that it wasn't just a couple of vehicles. This was dozens of vehicles. And I could see the blue lights flashing through my curtains. I could see the gap between the flashing lights. Of course, that woke me up. I sat in bed for about 10 minutes just hearing the sirens going off and going off and going off. And I actually messaged my girlfriend at 6 a.m. saying something major must be happening around here because I have never heard an emergency response like this. It was like something else, I've just never heard sirens like it in my life.
Charlie, we're all worrying that maybe this was targeted at students because student land is nearby and sometimes students are, as you say, it's a vibrant student city, busier at the weekends. Are there many student bars in that area?
No, this is the interesting thing about Mapley Park and Magdala Road is it's not. It's a quiet residential area and it's actually out of the city centre. You would have to perhaps make a 10-minute journey out of the city centre via a vehicle to actually get there. So it's not in the city centre itself, which is why, of course, for the residents living around here, it's come as such a shock. But Nottingham, of course, is a massive student city, as you mentioned, and a lot of the routes heading out of the city centre are back to areas that are populated by students. You've got Forest Fields just down the road from here, probably about a 10-minute walk, which is a huge student area. So it is, it's not unusual to see students walking home at 5 a.m. or perhaps getting an e-scooter back. It's very, very common in Nottingham because, as you say, it is a student city. And a lot of these students do go out in the week as well.
Charlie, are you a student at the university?
No, I'm not. No, I'm a good 10 years beyond that stage in my life.
Okay, well, you don't look it. We're just looking at some of the events that were on last night, actually. One of our earlier contributors, Kane, he's a student in the area. He said there were a lot of student events going on in the city yesterday because of the particular kind of time of year. Exams are finished, people are celebrating, there's lots of end-of-term occasions. Apparently there's a big Monday night in the area. Have you heard of the Prism nightclub in Nottingham?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very familiar with it, yeah.
So that was apparently an evening called Lemonade last night at Prism. Tell us about those sorts of events on a Monday night. What would that be like? And who would be walking out onto the streets at what sort of time?
Well, it would, as you say, it would largely be students. I think the main university club nights tend to run between sort of Monday and Thursday at various different locations within the city centre. I imagine that sort of event could be closing at 4 or 5 in the morning, which of course is around the time when we know that these events took place. And as I say, Nottingham is a student city, and it's not unusual to see people walking home. People do tend to walk home in groups, but it's not unusual to see that at that time of morning. And you would think, particularly midweek, there wouldn't have been that many people around who weren't returning from a night out or perhaps getting up very early if they were starting a particularly early shift for work.
Bill, Charlie, this is your home. There's been a savage, brutal slaying of 3 people injured in hospital. Are you in a sense of shock?
Completely, yeah. My heart has been racing all morning, and Nottingham is such a supportive and community-driven place, and you're only, you know, a couple of people away from someone you know. Everyone kind of knows each other in the city. And of course, your first thing is, well, my God, I hope it's no one that I know that's been affected by it. You check in with your friends and your family, but then, of course, your thoughts are with those people that have been affected. And it's completely devastating for the whole city. It's rocked the city. It's not something we've ever experienced before. And I'm sure there will be, you know, several days mourning to come. And unity is what we need right now. I think the people of Nottingham need to be supportive and be united in this.
Charlie, you seem like you know the area so well, and forgive me if I'm asking a question that you don't really know the detail of, but Andrew and I were speculating about the distances between Ilkeston Road, which was the site of the first event at 4 a.m. We're looking at the map here as well, and then Milton Street and Magdala Road. Are those three locations fairly close to each other?
Well, this is the concerning thing. No, they aren't. And this is what caused such widespread shock this morning when we found out the locations within the city, because those streets are not closely located and you are spreading, you know, quite a radius around the city centre with those various locations. And I think when it emerged which streets had been cordoned off this morning, that was one of the reasons people were shocked, because they were thinking, well, hang on, that's over there. That's a good couple of miles away over there. So when I say it has affected the whole city, Nottingham isn't a very big city centre. So it really has had a widespread effect around the whole of the conurbation of the city.
It suggests, doesn't it, Charlie? I mean, I know this is speculation, but it suggests that he was driving, looking randomly for victims.
I mean, I wouldn't like to comment and speculate on that, of course, but, you know, the distance suggests that, you know, multiple locations, and you would think a vehicle was used to get from one location to another.
It also actually, Charlie, explains, now that you've explained the proximity, it explains why there were so many police sirens that we've seen reports of, because the police had a chase on their hands. This isn't like there were three quick incidents, one after the other, within the space of a few moments. They were clearly pursuing this guy for what will turn out, I imagine, to have been quite a prolonged period of time.
Because the first incident, Charlie, was at 4 o'clock, and we think they apprehended him at 5:30. So that was an hour and a half.
Yeah, and this is, again, what a lot of people have been discussing and perhaps, you know, speculating about, the timings of the attacks. You know, initially we heard sort of varying reports on that. But it has become apparent that, this did start at around 4 a.m. And of course, as I say, you know, at 5:20, that is when I heard the sirens. And from what I remember, it must have lasted between 20 minutes to half an hour. And that, of course, is Magdala Road, which is located just down the road from me. So it would suggest, yes, the timeline that this was a more prolonged spree of attacks.
OK. Well, Charlie Burley, just the most superb and articulate eyewitness.
Charlie, thanks for being so forthcoming, and stay safe, you and your family.
Thank you very much.